I think one of the biggest things is really just their attitude. So if I'm interviewing someone and just having a casual conversation, if they say things like, oh, well, back in my time, or, things, I hate all the new stuff, wish it was the way it was, that's honestly a big red flag for a lot of recruiters or people in the hiring process because that's showing that they're not.
So, Sanji, I've kind of been experiencing some things lately where I just feel like my career is at a halt. It's not taking off. Um, I do feel a lot has to do with my age and my experience, and I've kind of felt that way since I started this company. I know that I'm actually the oldest person in the building, and sometimes I feel it. And I feel like people are almost running circles around me, and I'm trying to keep up, but it's almost as if everything that I've done in my past, it really means nothing anymore. Even though my leadership skills are top notch and I have a lot of accomplishments on my resume and things to like really speak to the type of leader I am, it's almost like it means nothing anymore, and it's really sad, actually.
Yeah, that is sad. And that's a common story for women our age, women who are in their 50s or late 40s. And boy, if you're in your 60s and you're still like in the workforce, a lot of women are feeling like you're what you described. I totally get it. I totally get it. It's like no one is taking us seriously anymore. We have all of this experience, we have all of this knowledge, but nobody wants to recognize it or use it to advance us to their benefit, um, not just ours, but theirs. But there may be a reason why this is happening, and we need to find out. We need to find out what is it, what's going on in the workplace right now. What's going on in HR departments? What's going on in discussions with managers when it comes to women in midlife? What's going on? What are they saying? What are they seeing? What is it that we don't know? There's something we don't know.
Yeah. So I'm kind of excited because today we have Alexis Bodley, and she is an HR manager, and she's going to talk to us about, I guess, a lot of things that she sees and maybe some of the biases that she's experienced. Um, I think it's going to help out a lot just hearing from someone who is in this day in and day out and knows the do's and don'ts and can teach us a few things. So I'm definitely excited to hear what she has to say to see if there's some things that maybe I can change to help push myself to where I feel like I need to go.
Yeah. Let's hear from her and let's get to the bottom of this.
So we have the pleasure this week of speaking with Miss Alexis Bodley, and she's a human resources manager with Feutainer. So, Alexis, we're so excited to have you on the show because Sanji and I, we've been talking a while about, of course, our platform. We're speaking to midlife women and middle age women. And one of the things that we always talk about is that we kind of feel like it's a little bit different in the workforce when we get to a particular age. I would say probably about maybe 40 and up, where you almost feel like you start getting typecasted into customer service roles or something like that, where it's no longer the executive level or management level. It's just, oh, that you'd be good at customer service. So we've been really wanting to have someone in human resources on to kind of share their knowledge and help our listeners and viewers out with, hey, we're on our second wings, I think, right now, where, we're starting life all over again, some of us, and we're getting out there and we want something new. So we're so happy to have you on to share your knowledge with us and kind of guide us. So thank you for coming on.
Yes, thank you both for
Yes,
having me.
thank
I'm
you.
excited to be here.
Kind of give us an idea of what you do, and why did you choose human resources? What about that kind of drew you to it?
So, my background is customer service and then also 7 years of life insurance and health insurance. So, with all of the privacy laws with insurance, there's HIPAA and there's how to talk to clients, and there's a lot of different listening skills with are you actually hearing the person? Are you listening to them? And it kind of almost is very similar to human resources already, in my opinion. So Feutainer is actually my dad's company. He opened it up just a few years ago, and I wanted to be involved and play a really big part, and not just, hey, it's my daddy's money. Like I wanted to work for it myself. So human resources, it was just a big challenge. I wanted to see if I could even do it and how I would like it. Um, but yeah, it wasn't a big change, like I said, from insurance, but getting into it. It's very interesting. I feel like I still learn stuff now to this day. Um, but a lot of it, like I said, really boils down to communication skills. I think that might be one of the biggest factors with it.
Have you in your work experienced or heard of anyone who's a little older talking about the challenges they may face nowadays in the workforce?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it could be a number of things, but me personally, it's like not just this company, another company I worked for, in human resources as well. It's maybe the management or the top guys or whatever you want to call them, the leadership team, they're almost intimidated by someone that may be older than them because they have more work experience, more life experience, and they want to be the big dog. And it kind of goes back to, I don't know if y'all read that book, 48 Laws of Power. The first law is never outshine the master.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think about that a lot, and people, they want you to grow, and but they also don't want you to grow further than them. So I think that's one aspect of it. Another one is maybe I've seen this a lot too, that not to say it in a negative way, but people, the whole can't teach an old dog new tricks sort of thing. So it's with that, and people, once they start in a career or have life experience, they're wanting to keep it the way it's always been, or they're not willing to keep up with the modern ways. So being more tech savvy or social media, LinkedIn, whatever. So they keep them there for diversity and just until they age out or to retire. So it's actually pretty sad to me because a lot of people, they're hungry, they want to do more for themselves and grow, but it's it's really just, those two caps in my opinion.
Yeah, and you talked about technology, and is there some sort of like maybe reality with all of this? You know, we're moving into kind of an AI world, a more tech world. Could it be that a lot of people after they reach a certain age, they just don't have the skills in that technology? Or maybe they do and people just don't trust that they do. Like, how has the workplace
Yeah.
shifted so that, it make it maybe a little tougher?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's hard work beats talent at everything. But unfortunately, some companies are more, tech based, tech savvy. So my company, for example, Feutainer, it is a logistics company, but mainly data, analyzing inventory and what there is. So we do our oldest employee, I believe I want to say 64, 65, but he's actually the lead, the manager out there in Tampa at our base. So he's taking care of all of the guys out there. And that was something challenging that we had to deal with at first because he wasn't very tech savvy, um, not as fast as someone who's, maybe 20 years old. but he was hungry and eager and hardworking, and he learned quickly. And it's also like, we went through COVID, and the only things that elderly people really, really do, like seniors, is go to the doctor and have supper at 4 p.m. So they were doing their doctor's appointments virtually, on Facebook all day. People know how to use their phones. It's not very hard. I think it's really a matter if they actually want to learn and actually take the time to do it.
I agree.
So, what are some of the subtle forms of age bias that you've noticed, during hiring practices?
I think one of the biggest things is really just their attitude. So if I'm interviewing someone and just having a casual conversation, it's they if they say things like, "Oh, well, back in my time," or things, "I hate all the new stuff. I wish it was the way it was." That's honestly a big red flag for a lot of recruiters or people in the hiring process, because that's showing that they're not maybe open to change or adaptability. And with how, like you said, with AI technology, how everything is going in life, things are going to keep changing and growing. So it's like, are you going to grow with it, or are you going to stay behind and kind of be where you've always been? I think another thing also might be resumes. I didn't realize how important they were until I really did get into HR. But, some people that are older, they may have a lot of experience with working, but on their resume, it's saying going back 10, 15 years or back to the 80s. And that's going to be boring to a lot of people to read. Like if it's 5 pages long, they want to see the key points and, your strengths, and maybe some certifications, just something that'll, I guess, keep them interested in and really making yourself stand out, if that makes sense.
So how can they reframe their experiences to kind of, meet the needs of the hiring managers so that they stand out as opposed to looking kind of drab?
I would say to, at the very most, maybe go back 8 to 10 years, if that. Unless it's a big accomplishment, from several years ago, 15, 20 years ago, where maybe they were, started some big software project management, or were upon like a big movement that's going to make them stand out. Of course, put that in there. But let's say someone started working at 16, 18 years old at Walmart or McDonald's, they don't care about that. Um, so I think just definitely condensing it, and maybe even making a separate section on the resume called career highlights. So, kind of like, athletes, they have their highlights on ESPN or whatever, and a separate section to make them stand out. They took the time to do that. Um, and just showing something that they're proud of. I think that would really, really make people stand out. And I've coached people on that before. So if someone came in and they were older and they had a few key points like that, I'd probably hire them on the spot because that's pretty cool.
Hmm.
So, when you were talking about like certifications, is there anything that you recommend? What do you think women should take a look at, trying to have under their belt?
I would definitely say if they have, for me, for example, I've had 8 years in sales. So I would put that as a highlight. Or let's say you helped develop an app or a website, put that, something that you're proud of, that you worked hard for and that means something to you. Or certification, life and health insurance, my license there, I've worked for about 4 different brokers. And to some recruiters, if I put, 4 different agencies of brokers that I've been with, it may raise a red flag for them. Like, oh, why does she move different agencies? Like, maybe she's a quitter and it's going to give us a headache. I would just put a big block. Hey, I was there from this year to this year. Here's my license. I would put, there was a few times I was number one sales agent for the month or in the whole agency. something that makes you stand out. Um, let's see. Even if, of course, you didn't finish college, put that on there. I would say, I think also a big thing is like maybe women specifically, if they were married and, have kids, a lot of times if you have the leisure to, you can stay home. And then, hey, maybe the kids are older now, you want to go back to work. Um, to some people, that can, I wouldn't say raise a red flag, but oh, you had a gap of 5 years in your resume. But instead of just saying, oh, I was a stay at home mom, I didn't work, but now I'm ready to get back into it, put your strengths in there, what you learned being a mom. It's still a whole lot of work. So I learned about how to manage my schedule, taking care of my kids, my husband, the house, managing myself. Or let's say there was a girl that we hired and she had a gap in her resume as well for, I want to say, about 2.5 years. And we were asking her the same questions. Oh, what was going on? Like, why did you take time off? And she was actually taking care of her sick grandparents at the time. But that's not a negative thing because at the time she learned about, how to pay their bills, how to schedule their doctor's appointments, take care of her own life, her family, her husband, schedule managing, just leadership within herself. So I just think it's honestly a big perspective on how you look at it. And yeah, just not really be afraid to like share your experiences, really.
Yeah, I think that's great that you recognize those gaps and the reason for the gap because, yeah, I know a lot of women who took time off to raise kids, highly educated, highly
Mm-hmm.
experienced, and they had kids, took time off for several years, and then jumped back in. So it's great to hear
Yeah.
that managers and the hiring managers and the HR departments are recognizing that and understanding that. But it also sounds like experience is embraced more so than education. Someone should probably put their experience more at the top and their education at the bottom, it sounds like.
Yes and no. So if you're wanting to be in the medical field, by all means.
Right.
But at the same time, there was another book I read too. And it was saying in the book, I think 52% of people in the medical field are cheating their way through college. And then they're performing like surgeries on you or whatever. So I do think it's experience over, um, like I said, like maybe college, because it's about like who you know and if how hard you work too. So if it's, let's just say you two, so Karen and Sanji, like y'all both went, let's say Sanji, you went to college for 4 years, but you're lazy. You just want to clock in, clock out and just do your thing. But then Karen's over here outworking you and, moves up. So it just, I think it maybe work both ways. But for me, I would hire over experience or even just your language. Like you can tell a lot about a person, how they talk and what they want to do in their life. Um, Maybe they're fooling me, maybe they could be playing me, but I think when you know, you know.
Yeah, you can just
But
feel it.
just gotta take a chance on people. If no one took a chance on me or several people I know, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, so I'm forever grateful for that. But
So I know that you kind of touched on, basically preparing your resume. But do you find that there are, besides, I would say, putting too much on there, are there any other mistakes that we could possibly be making as we get older on our resume?
not necessarily. I would say, references are a really big deal. Um, you wanna have solid people on there, maybe even people you've never worked with before, like, that you've helped out or networking events just to show you're diverse. And I think that's a really, really strong suit for sure, especially maybe if you are going into a field where they're like, hey, requirements, bachelor's degree. And you don't have a bachelor's degree, but references, solid ones that maybe your business owners or management in other companies or industries or whatever. I think that's a really, really big deal. And when I call them, I'm not going to ask them the basic questions you can find online. How do you know her? How long have you worked with her? I'm going to, why does she stand out to you? How does she act when she's mad? How does she act whenever she's winning or accomplishing? I want to ask the hard questions, and I feel like that really puts them on the spot because a lot of times whenever people are calling for references or asking around, it's very almost scripted. But if you kind of ask them the uncomfortable questions, it says a lot too about how they respond. So, um, definitely think that. And then just if you actually are open to change, saying that you're adaptable, you're eager to learn or to grow and to just do something different. I think that's a really strong suit too.
It's really good to hear you mention the references. I just always thought that was a formality, just to be able to list 2 or 3 or 4 people, but you're actually calling people. So
Some
that's
people
good to
probably don't
know.
really call, but I
Yeah.
call.
Yeah, and because you wanna know. Yeah, no, that's a word to the wise that when you put these names out there, people that you know, they better know you also, because that phone call may go out. What about, platforms like, LinkedIn or any type of social media? Do you ever look there to see what's on someone's social media or what's on their LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I like to see I think some settings you're able to, some aren't. I also like to see what they're sharing and who their connections are also. If we're further in the hiring process, okay. So you're connected to, bunch of young 20, frat guys that you all went to college together. Okay. Like you really get to like know a person based on who they're friends with. So, um that's a big thing. If they are connecting with other people, what they're posting, what they're sharing. And it's really easy to find someone nowadays too, because LinkedIn, they could put on a show. So I want someone to represent like my company or where I'm working that if I'm out sick for 2 weeks and they need to handle my responsibilities, that I would trust them, no questions asked. I wouldn't have to micromanage them. Um, but yeah, I think LinkedIn's a really, really awesome source to use. And I can learn a lot about a person and, even how to grow my own LinkedIn and sharpen up my own profile with different tools they're using, how they're engaging with their connections.
And what should go on a LinkedIn? Everything? And I ask because I have a son who just graduated from college who's going through the hiring process now, and he's included all of the organizations he was a part of in college, all of his volunteer work, like, he just threw everything at LinkedIn that he could. Do you all read that stuff, or does it matter?
Yeah, I think if that's the place where you really, really want to bulk up, especially, what we're talking about now, um, if you have like 5 pages on your resume, put it all there. Why not? People scroll on their phone all day long. They'll take some time just to scroll and stalk you a little bit. I think that's um, ideally where you should put everything there. Organization, like you said, volunteer work, CPR certified, really anything. So clubs he was a part of, sports, definitely that. But it's I think in general, if someone's reading a piece of paper in front of them, it's like, 4 or 5 pages long, that can become boring. For sure. But it kind of like almost reminds me of business cards. Nowadays, people don't have business cards at all. If someone gives me a business card, I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna throw it away or put it in my purse and never look at it ever again. So that just goes back to like change and adaptability. And um, nowadays, people are using digital business cards. So if you're at a networking event or meeting someone, you just get their name, boom, sends them everything. There's even links to your LinkedIn you can click on there. So just going with the changes. Yeah.
Yeah, it has that QR code on it. The one I use is called
Yes.
Blink, I think it's called, but yeah, it's everything's
Yeah.
digital now.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
So, Alexis, for women who've been in customer service roles, but maybe they want to transition into management roles, what's your advice to them? Like, what's the first step?
I would definitely say to always perform for the job you want, not the job you have. So let's say even if you're on salary or being paid hourly, um, and you're tired that day and as a whole things need to get done in the company or the business wherever you're working, um, just do a little bit more, you know? Maybe not necessarily staying later and staying earlier, but let's say your friend or the person sitting next to you at the desk, wherever, they're lacking, they need help, and it's putting everyone on a deadline or putting people behind. Just help them out. Like, why not? You know, who cares? Eventually, it might not show right away, but people are gonna realize that. They're gonna see, hey, you know, she actually cares. She's wanting to go above and beyond and sees the end goal and is not selfish. So I think that, or just helping out really where you can, and of course, don't overextend yourself, but just get it done. Like, at the end of the day, like, who really cares? You know, I will say that's one, big plus at Feutainer is that, yes, I'm human resources manager, but if people need help, filing paperwork or, um I'm not forklift certified yet, but if they needed me to move the forklifts, I would do it. And not even necessarily because it is my parents' company, but that's just how I've always been in the work field. Um, I also think it kind of makes you feel better about yourself. So just always doing the best you can for sure.
Yeah, and I would assume that like networking and mentorships also play a role in the transition from one position to another. Really get
Absolutely. If you just maybe communicate with, manager, ask questions, show that you're interested to learn. And you're eager to just really understand the business maybe from their perspective. That's gonna show interest, like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. Why are they asking me all these questions?" So, subconsciously or not, you're gonna be in the back of their mind whenever they're looking for someone.
And what can companies do or HR departments do to kind of help managers better understand the needs of older employees and their experience and their need to transition from one position to the other, or the want or desire to be hired? This may be just kind of like a teaching moment. Do you think HR departments and companies can do a better job at teaching its managers to recognize good talent?
Yeah, for sure. I think it just taking more time to get to know the applicant or if you're already hired. Um, I think it goes back to just putting in a little bit more effort because it's I wanna not say easier, but easier for managers or the hiring, department to maybe hire someone young, only really because they it's a phrase I've heard a lot that they're, um, young enough to listen and stupid enough to follow, which is very, very weird to say, but it's kinda true. It's like you can don't wanna use the word manipulate, but just they have no life work experience. So I think the bias with, older people is that they have experience and they don't want to adapt. They just want to do what they're doing, no extra effort. And maybe even, I've heard this before too, that they don't want to really take the chance because they're going to retire soon or they're not going to want to, yeah, put in the extra effort or it's, don't want to say a bad attitude, but it's, what's the word I'm looking for?
I get it. And that was what I was going to ask
Yeah.
next because, someone like me, like if you knew me personally, like I'm younger than my 20-year-old and my 22-year-old. Like I'm the coolest youngest person. They got to keep up with me. Yet
I love it.
I'm 59 years old and I would think that a hiring manager would say, she's about to turn 60. She's going to be like leaving soon. Like, so why even waste the time with her? Yet I could run circles around
Right.
any 20 something and definitely any 30 or 40 something, you know.
Yep.
So it's just a real struggle because I feel like we're prejudged based on the year that we were born. Yet and I get there are those who are older who act old and use old as an excuse. But then there are those of us who don't, you
Yeah.
know. So I just wanted to ask, is there the assumption that somebody my age is about to retire, so why waste the time?
Absolutely. And it's unfortunate. But if let's just say that you're in the work environment position you're in now and there's an opportunity to move up, I would probably do whatever I can because selfishly I want to prove myself. That's the biggest thing with me, proving everyone wrong. I would have references, maybe like type up a nice email, a nice new cover letter, even though you're already working there. Hey, I've worked here X amount of time. My strengths are this. This is what I love or enjoy about the company. I relate to the company values and culture here. I feel like I can help improve in these areas. I'm open or look at me for consideration to move up. Um, More references. Who cares? Worst they can say is no. If someone did that with me or any other people in the hiring department, I would be so impressed and it would be amazing. I think it's really cool to see people eager to not just even want to benefit the company, but it just shows within yourself that you know that you're made for more and you want to just do more. And that's a big thing for me personally. So I think that'd be my advice for that.
So tell us about your company. Tell us about Feutainer, if for those who are not familiar.
Yeah, so Feutainer, it's a logistics company. My dad, he actually was in um he started from working in the warehouse and logistics field, so just sweeping the warehouse, maybe loading some trucks with cargo and all the freight. And then um I think I'm selling the story right. One day he was actually going up to the main office where the desks and cubicles are, and I think he was going up there to flirt with my stepmom at the time. They weren't together yet, but somebody was struggling to close a sale or solidify a deal, and he was just easily no big deal in sales, closing the deal, but wasn't getting paid for it. And then he was recognized like, hey, this kid's actually pretty good. So he spent about 22 years in that field. And then I think what his breaking point was is that year after year consecutively, he was number one in sales, number one in this and that, and making the company a lot of money. And it was almost like a slap in the face because he was getting older. And this year, particular year, made the company the most money. And they gave him a very, very small bonus and like some coasters or something. And it was almost like a slap in the face, you know? So this was back in 20, a few years back. I don't know the exact timeline, but they're his friends, which are his partners now. They were talking about opening the company and really giving back to people because it's like if you work hard, then you're gonna be taken care of. Um, so yeah, he's been CEO for about 2 years now, and it's really exciting to see him flourish and everything come to fruition. Just happening at the right time and really taking care of people. So it's a big family oriented business. Everyone wears multiple hats. Like I say, if someone needs help in this area, this department, if I need help or I need to help someone in billing, I'm going to go do it. I've done payroll, billing, now HR, but just a bunch of different stuff. Like we all really, really care because we're also taken care of. And like I told you earlier, our oldest employee, he's actually a manager. He spent 25 years in NYPD. Um, he's just a hard worker and learned how to adapt to technology and everything here. It's very family oriented. So my husband works there. My mom and my dad. and then my husband's 2 brothers, brother-in-laws, my grandpa, my uncle's a billing manager, and it's it's a lot of family, and it's very, very rewarding, but it's also very challenging because at first, me, working for my dad, he didn't really see me as a professional, just as his kid. So that kinda makes me wanna work harder too, like, he pisses me off. But it only is, yeah, helping me be better. So it's really exciting, just growing, getting our name out there in the industry, and, um, on a personal level, just learning about the logistics world and freight and getting these transferable skills, that I can always go somewhere else and, "Hey, I've learned this here, boom, I'm good to go." And they can say that for really all the employees, of all the ages there. So my uncle being, I wanna say 49, 50, same thing too, he was looking at similar jobs and positions in the industry. He's like, "What's really cool is that I learned all of this here and I can always transfer it over there." So really about just giving back and having fun. So, yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that you would be willing to jump in and maybe learn the forklift if you had to. And clearly that's something you do in person. How has the pandemic changed the landscape of how people are willing to work? Because like nowadays everyone's looking for remote jobs, you know?
Mhm.
People are not willing to go in. They want to, can I do this remotely? So do you have those opportunities in your company, or is that something that like you all are just like, no, but you also recognize the fact that this is what people are looking for?
Yeah, so as far as the groundwork, so the guys loading the trucks and unloading the forklifts, obviously that's not remote, but we do have a lot of positions. So we have, one lady, she's actually in San Diego, just by herself, only one out there working from home, does a fantastic job. We have a team in Tampa. Um, Business is a little slower out there than it is in Houston, but they're pretty hybrid as well. And then my parents' partners, they were actually born in South Africa. They moved here for about 10, 15 years and recently moved back. So we have a whole team in South Africa and they work on America time, but it's really interesting how, yeah, how it all works out. And yet somehow we still have every Tuesday a meeting at 4 p.m. Central Time, and people from the East Coast, West Coast, South Africa, we all get on at the same time, and yeah, we make it work. So I
That's
think
good.
honestly, COVID and the remote work, it's a game changer. Um, I think it was an awesome thing. When COVID happened, I was living in Ohio running an insurance agency, and how it used to be was you had to go to clients' houses and meet with them. But if, let's say, I have an appointment at, 2 appointments at 6 p.m., I'm like, man, I gotta pick which one I'm gonna go to. You drive to one person's house and they're not home, they reschedule. Okay, you wasted your whole other time. Or traffic and getting gas, anything, the wear and tear in your car. With COVID, I'm booking 3 or 4 appointments at the same time. One doesn't show up, boom, next.
That's
But
great. Yeah, so that was
yeah,
the positive part of the pandemic is, it
yes.
changed things. But one of the things I know it changed, I don't know if your company does this, but that the higher view, you know how now you a lot of the interviews you've got to go through that electronic speaking to a screen instead of an actual human being through higher view, and it's so dreaded. But so what's the purpose of that?
Are you referring to like you said like a screening? So when they're
Yeah, it's called higher view, where before you actually get an in-person interview, you have to do an electronic interview where you have to answer questions as if you're in an interview. And it's so
yes.
like tough. And a lot of people are like, "Ugh, I don't want to do it," but you have to. And so I'm wondering like
Hmm.
what is the purpose of that pre-electronic, you know, interview before you actually get to the actually getting to
I think
talk to somebody
laziness.
even.
Yeah, I would say laziness, and just seeing if they would be appropriate, like, for the culture, for the company, or how they would be. Because a lot of those, I could be wrong, but those screenings, a lot of the time, they're also personality based too. their
Yeah.
personality results. So, how would you adapt in this situation? Which one relates to you the most, or how do you handle conflict? In some environments in the workplace, they're kind of high conflict, or it's like organized chaos. So, it's just a big process of elimination. But I don't know, because it's what if, you're answering the questions and people could be overthinking, like almost as if there is a right or wrong answer, but you missed out on, what could be your number one employee or the future CEO of the company because of a personality test. So I think in-person interviews are too. If you're wasting your time, oh well, you're gonna learn something from someone, and yeah, it's all laziness.
Since you've been an HR manager, are there some HR policies that you've seen that help retain experienced women in the workforce?
um, yes. So I mean, nothing out of the ordinary, particularly for Feutainer. There's of course, sexual harassments and different things put in place, but from my experience, nothing that would be unusual or different from any other policies, no.
Well, how can people reach you? Like, let's say they're like, I want to work for her company or I want to learn more about her company. How can people reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I actually also run the company's social media pages. So, all of the handles on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, it's all just the company name, Feutainer. Just send a DM or my email. I believe it is listed as well. It's Alexis at Feutainer. We're very open to really anyone. So, younger, older, experience or not, it's just taking a chance on someone. So yeah, we always post content too and things going on, different networking events or dinners with customers or posting our employee of the month. We're pretty engaged. So either one, I'm pretty responsive.
Very good. Well, we want to thank you so much for joining us today. We learned a lot about how this whole thing works. And I think the key word for me is like, don't be lazy. You know, do, do what you're
I know. I
supposed to
hate lazy
do.
people.
Yeah, and as you get older, people do kind of share all of their reasons why they can't do something, and it's
Right.
just one big excuse, and so the older ladies, please take note, and they're not interested, they don't care. Uh, so yeah, we want to thank you for sharing that.
Yes, of course. And the career highlights. That's a big one. But
Definitely,
yeah,
no
it
5-page
was a lot of
resumes.
fun. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you. I really enjoyed that talk that we just had with Alexis. It really did add some perspective on some things that, you and I have been talking about, with ageism and things like that in the workplace. But just hearing the way that she explained it and how it can happen and the reason why really, helps me out a little bit in understanding it.
Absolutely. I think her talking about the resumes and making sure that you put highlights on there, I feel like I did that in my cover letter. So now I may go back and take a look at my resume and just see if there's anything that I can tweak.
Yeah, because I mean, walking into an interview or even sending a 5, 6 page resume going all the way back to, as she mentioned, the 80s, like nobody really needs to see all that because we're in 2025 and what you did in the 80s or in the 90s, you probably don't even have those skills anymore. So what's the point? What are you doing now? Like who are you now? Is so important, and I'm glad that she was able to add that, especially as we're moving into the tech world. This is, I mean, we're already there. Like it's not
Right.
even moving. We're there, and if you're not on board, then uh, people can't help you.
Right. Absolutely. And no one's resume should be anymore. They shouldn't even be 2 pages. I know that a lot of people, like recruiters and HR execs, have said that's too long. You're really supposed to have everything fitting on 1 page because, again, people have a short attention span. They're not looking for, digging back to this one and this one and this one. Everything should be on that 1 sheet.
And the solution to that, if you're stuck and you can't get everything on 1 page, you need to put the LinkedIn link on your resume so that the HR manager or hiring manager will go to your LinkedIn and they would be more willing to read a LinkedIn even on their phone and scroll or on the computer, and that's where you can open up the floodgates and put everything. So, but
And
yeah.
I think another key thing that Alexis mentioned was going, like, her being an HR manager and going on LinkedIn and knowing that that's what people are going to do. You really have to be careful about what you're saying. I've made comments about like things in the beauty world. And, again, we've talked about Serena Williams and her Win Beauty before, and there was an article on there, and I just said, oh, this is great. Love her products. Always just leaving something that's very positive or congratulations, way to go. It's that kind of um basically that kind of talk that you need to do, not, oh, I hate this company and so did this to me. Don't air your dirty laundry because even though it's a social media platform, it's professional. And what you do on there could come back to bite you in the hiding, and you don't want that.
Yeah, especially on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is professional. This is where you need to
Yes.
put your best foot forward. Your profile photo needs to be professional, maybe you in a suit or, something really, and this is where you're sharing your professional accomplishments. Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, that's a whole different ball of wax. But like you said, you shouldn't be on Facebook and Instagram or now Threads. I'm seeing a lot of stuff on Threads. I don't know if you're on Threads, but people are acting out on
Yeah.
Threads. Um, and and you don't want that, especially if you're looking for a job. And if you have it already on there, you might want to delete and clean that stuff up.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Be careful of what you're liking. Even that could sometimes come back to get you. So I would say for LinkedIn, keep it extremely professional and really don't go liking more than you have to.
Yeah, yeah, and definitely stay away from the political discussions because yeah, that could really hurt you. So
Yes,
just not telling people what to do, but just be mindful that there may be a
absolutely.
hiring manager who might not appreciate like what you're liking or what you're commenting on in the political world. But again, key for me was we as middle-aged women really need to be mindful of how we present ourselves. Are you presenting yourself as an old lady? So if you're presenting yourself as an old lady, then why would anybody want to hire an old lady? There's nothing wrong with being an old lady, but like these companies need people with energy and willingness to jump in, not being lazy. And so that's real important. So a lot of times, yeah, some of these companies may not look to you based on the year that you were born, but then get in and show them something else. Show them that you're not that, you know, baby boomer, whatever a typical or stereotypical example is of a baby boomer or an older Gen Xer.
Yeah.
So it's really in how you present yourself. It's really important. We hope you found our conversation as insightful and thought provoking as we did. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. You can also text the show if you're listening to us on one of the podcast platforms. We always like hearing from you.
Please make sure that you follow us. We have our website, www.girlieladies.com. There you can also see in the contributor section our guests. If you want to learn a little bit more about them and their social media platforms and websites as well. We are also on Instagram. We are at Girlie Ladies. And I have a personal Instagram at the KJB Effect.
You can reach me on Instagram at Digital with Sanji. You can also reach me on Facebook and some of the other social media platforms at Sanji Cosby. So, in the meantime, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most of all, keep growing. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.